Hello, Colorado. This is the Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. We have turned on the Zoom webinar and it is live, and I see that folks are starting to trickle in. I appreciate people joining us this afternoon. This is the, I guess it's already the third week of March, because the third week is when we do evening meetings to try to accommodate folks' schedule. I'm also going to likely move the evening meeting to a start time of 6 as opposed to 5. I think that would give people even a little more ability to be with us. And I know we're not commuting as much as we used to, but there may be some that are out there. But to get us started, we've got a calling of the roll of the commissioners.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Bogue?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner McGowan?
Here.
Commissioner Nanjapa?
Here.
Commissioner Mesner?
Here.
Commissioner Hackett?
Here.
And Commissioner Robbins?
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 7 out of 7 commissioners present.
Excellent. Well, good to see everybody. Once again, we're in Zoom here. We have a short agenda this evening. We've got basically 7 folks that have signed up for public comment, and we're going to go through those people. And then we've got an opportunity for commissioner comments. I've got a few comments about developments on the financial assurances informational docket. Maybe some of the other commissioners have comments they would like to make. And now the $10,000 question is, we're at 5:03. Did the people that signed up, have they showed up within the participant section? Looks like we have about 17 attendees.
I do have a few people that have showed up, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Why don't we just take them in order of showing up, and I'll keep track of the list to make sure we don't miss anybody. I would also note for the record that we encourage written comments, and we received 2 written comments over the course of the last week. One was from Clark Berggren, and the other was from Kelly McCluskey. And we have all read those written comments. They're as useful and helpful as public comments. So thank you for participating with us that way. And with that, I'm just going to let you call on the folks that you found, hearings manager Amaro.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Shayna Oliver will be first.
Hello?
Hello, Miss Oliver. We can hear you and see you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Can I start?
You can start.
All right. Thank you. My name is Shayna Oliver. I am a Northeast community member of Denver, field organizer for Eco Madres Moms Clean Air Force, a national organization of mothers, dads, and caregivers united in fighting for all children's right to breathe and play in clean air. Most importantly, I'm a mother, indigenous mother of 4, and we are the descendants of the genocide known as the Indian Removal Act, known to the Diné as the Long Walk of the Navajo. These types of violations have run a long historic impact on indigenous people, our communities, as well as our health and environmental well-being. Extractive capitalism of minerals and resources outlines the generational impacts of genocide inflicted on the Arapaho and Cheyenne people that were massacred along Sand Creek River, known as the Sand Creek Massacre. These lands were not free, but stolen at the lives of indigenous children, mothers, elders, and men. This is the legacy of an extractive capitalism. To continue to mislead that nothing can be done is where our solution hides for climate action, as well as our environmental well-being for health. As we continue to move forward, it's imperative for the COGCC to jump forward with no step backwards. The Physicians for Social Responsibility had a symphony of impacts on disproportionate impacts of residents that are being near oil and gas industry, and the impacts on health and as well as clean air. So we have enough information to tell us that our risks are higher with oil and gas in our environment as well as in our communities, and should not be encroached on our newly developed residents that didn't sign up to be next to oil and gas. We have children that are being forced to be run to the hospital due to their asthma increases over this last few years. And with COVID-19 also impacting the same communities that have the disparities of these air pollution that increases their impacts on their health, as well as their economic well-being. This is a great burden on our health services as well, by ignoring these disparities caused by these facilities. And I encourage you to deny all permits to drill and emit oil and gas on new and existing permits. The COGC needs to hold health and environment a priority for all children's right to breathe clean air, water, and lands, as well as these residents didn't sign up for oil and gas to be in the backyard of their newly developed houses. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver, for participating with us this evening and for providing those public comments. Ms. Amario, who do we have next?
Next up is Steve Douglas.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you guys opening us up in the evening comments. That's very helpful, and understanding that we might move till 6 o'clock. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to kind of clarify, last month at evening comments, some things were stated, and I wasn't trying to offend anybody or make any incorrect statements. And I said 20 years worth of oil and gas drilling, and it's actually 10. So that's that. What I want to talk about tonight is as far as rulings and hearings and measurements and putting, I'd say, regulations with the 181. One thing has not been covered and is drilling near Superfund sites. Colorado has 200 Superfund sites total in the state, but there are 24 Superfund sites that are on a national priority list, and the Rocky Mount Arsenal in Adams County is listed as number 15. And that extends the contaminants across the 27 square mile site. And that was established back in 1942 as manufacturing of chemical weapons and also pesticides until 1982. And there was earthquakes. I grew up in Colorado, out in Littleton, and in the 60s, we felt the tremors from the deep well injections. And that, right, I think that's like 25 miles from that site south. And I say this because Commerce City is a growing city. We are right now, 2 families of 4 are moving in every day up and near the Rocky Mountain Wildlife Arsenal site. And PUD's planned utility development is happening right across the street from the arsenal. And matter of fact, there is one proposed drilling pad that's looking to be permitted, and we're hoping that that doesn't happen, of course. And the good thing, Commerce City they did settle on their oil and gas ordinance 2266 Monday night, with some exceptions as far as setbacks. The reverse setbacks of 1,000 feet, 2,000 foot setback, hard setback from schools. And some of council members are still are, I would say, clueless, but they're in the dark of when it's indicated that that COGCC set the standards of a 2,000 foot setback, hard setback, but actually it's a soft setback, their understanding of that soft setback is still 2,000 feet from residential. So I think some clarity needs to be said about that. And also making sure that when a developer comes in and lays plots down where they want to build, that it's known where any gathered lines, if they still exist or so, or where they're, if just we're disconnected, make sure that that the people who are buying those lots, as far as want to build a house, know exactly what's the history behind their home or underneath. So that's all I have to say. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas. I note that Christy Douglas is also signed up. Does she want to go now or later?
Sure, I can go now. So you must be able to hear me then.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right. Good evening, commissioners, and I would also like to echo our appreciation for you holding this in the evening, and consider moving it back to 6 o'clock, because I think it's going to make it easier for other people to participate. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Christy Douglas. I am once again a concerned citizen of Commerce City in Adams County. My husband Steve and I are proud parents of 5 fantastic adult children and 5 fabulous grandkids. So I'm also, of course, a wife. I'm a neighbor and a friend to many, and an actively engaged member of the community. I also serve as co-chair for NRCC, which is the North Range Concerned Citizens. And that's just a grassroots neighborhood group who's come together to protect our community. Although tonight I am speaking in my own behalf. So tonight I come to you after speaking last week. I spoke on an opinion article from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I did send you that link. But this week I'll reference the report that I believe was inspiring to the columnist who wrote that article that I presented last week. So the report comes from an organization called Environmental Health Studies, or EHS. Let me see if I can get to where I need to go. And of course, this flipped me out. It did. Hold on just a second. Thank you for your patience. Environmental Health Studies today publishes, and that was March 1st, it came out. Results from a groundbreaking investigation showing pollution from fracking operations is making its way into the bodies of people who live nearby, despite industry and regulatory assurances that this doesn't happen. In a scientific and reporting first, we tested the air, urine, and water of families living in and around fracking operations in Western Pennsylvania. This investigation revealed, number 1, alarmingly high rates of toxic industrial solvents linked to drinking or drilling operations. In some cases, 91 times higher than what's found in the average American. Number 2, cancer-causing chemicals in air samples at levels that exceeded recommended safety thresholds. Number 3, harmful chemicals like benzene, naphthalene, and xylene in drinking water. Number 4, regulatory agencies that consistently side with fracking companies over residents in polluted areas. So I will send you the link for the full report. This is a comment from a study participant. When people say stupid stuff like it just isn't true, or these are just radical people, or it's just one family, now I can say, no, look, this is really going on. This is happening to me and my kids. And then I hope you give me just a couple more seconds to conclude. From the report, or our reporting, your study has done, what your study has done is the work that someone who actually works for a health agency should probably do. This is your family. Some 18 million Americans living within a mile of a well likely face above average exposures to harmful chemicals And then one last concluding statement. I was a total cheerleader for this industry. Now I want to make sure that no one else makes the same mistake. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. and Ms. Douglas, for joining us this evening. I'm glad to hear that the potential 6 p.m. slot would be even better, so we'll probably take everybody up on that and try that out. And thank you again for presenting your information and testimony to us. Ms. Amaro, are we now moving to Ms. Sanchez?
Yes, we are. Ronna Sanchez is next.
Ms. Sanchez, I see you're with us. If you wanted to unmute, we might be able to hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just did that.
Yep, we can hear you good now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Ronna Sanchez, and I live in Commerce City. I'm participating tonight so I wouldn't be forgotten. It seems as though oil and gas companies and developers continue to pressure you and other city councils to allow them to continue infiltrating our neighborhoods. And I want you to know that there are still many of us against this due to the negative impact oil and gas has on health and safety. Last time I spoke to you, I said I was a leukemia survivor. And when I asked my doctor what caused my leukemia, he said one of two things, bad luck or benzene. And we know that benzene is around the fracking places. And so that's why I'm so against it. Fracking should not be allowed in neighborhoods. And I hope you keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez, for being with us this evening and for those comments. I believe we now have Janice Hallowell.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Ms. Hallowell.
Great. I'm Janice Hallowell. I live in Boulder County. I sometimes volunteer for 350 Colorado. Thank you so much for hearing us tonight. I've talked to you before about the high price we're all paying for drilling and fracking. I've told you before about my daughter's leukemia that arose after we moved to North Boulder County, downwind from where the fracking and drilling takes place. But you know, it's an illusion to think that the toxins only affect those living close to wells. In fact, all of us on the Front Range are suffering from the bad air due to fracking. Every time I speak here, I ask you to keep in mind that SB 19-181 requires you to make the health and well-being of the people the top priority in regulating the oil and gas industry. And I'm asking that again of you tonight. But what I want to talk about specifically tonight is orphaned fracking wells. According to the Carbon Tracker, as reported in High Country News last week, there are at least 60,000 unplugged abandoned wells in Colorado. The cost of plugging one is approximately $140,000. So almost $8.5 billion is needed to plug all of them. The gas companies buy a bond for each well that's supposed to cover the cost of cleanup, but it doesn't really. It actually covers only about 2% of the estimated cleanup bill. This is a great deal for oil and gas corporations, but it's a crappy deal for the state and for the people of Colorado, because when those companies go broke and abandon the wells, as they're doing at a rapid rate right now, that leaves the state of Colorado and its taxpayers on the hook for $8.3 billion to clean up the abandoned wells. But even when wells do get filled, which is rare, they're capped off with cement. This material allows for some continued leaking and it breaks down over time. In addition, the ground around the wells continues to be toxic with chemicals that continue to leak into the groundwater. So even when wells are filled, the end result is not really in keeping with taking care of the health and well-being of the people first, before the needs of oil and gas companies. Given the F- quality to our air due to fracking and drilling and the abandonment of wells, it seems to me that this coming bill to plug orphan wells, which which will land on the taxpayers, is a problem on the order of a major disaster. Later this month, the Commission's going to start working on the problem of plugging orphan wells and how to pay for it. I'm calling for you to address it as a statewide disaster. This is as big as a major flood or major forest fires, so let's treat it as such. Please don't play down the bottom line on these financial assurances, the real costs of plugging wells, and the difference between the two, which is about $8.3 billion that's going to fall on the state and/or the taxpayers. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hallowell. And on that last point, I was going to remind everybody later, but while I have you on the phone, we will have public comment at the Financial Assurances Informational Docket. That is going to be on March 31st at 6 p.m. And if you want to sign up for public comment, you should do so in the newly expanded public comment sign up, which runs through this coming Monday, the 22nd at 5 p.m. So we'll make note of your comments this evening, but if you wanted to make further comment, we'd love to hear from you. And I would tell everybody too, there is a vast amount of information that has been provided to us at the website. We're going to get instructions on how to get to that information. And the more all of us read that information and get educated about the issues around financial assurances, I think it'll help hone public comment about it. So again, thank you very much for being with us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you maybe on March 31st.
Thank you.
Great. I think we have two final members this evening, Sharon Smith.
Mr. Chair, Sharon Smith is not present. Heidi is present. We can go to her.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're unmuted. We can hear you and see you. Thank you.
Right. Okay, and thank you for hearing us tonight. I'm here as a private citizen, but I'm also a member of several groups, including 350 Colorado, that are actively working for change to prevent the climate catastrophe predicted by climate, social, and economic scientists whose research formed the basis for the 2018 IPCC report. Last week, I was a good example of paralyzing climate grief. Denial can also render us useless to effect the necessary change, as can doomerism, thinking it's too late and there's nothing we can do. But we really must look clear-eyed at the situation and do everything we can. I invite you today to use your power to help avert this catastrophe. We in Colorado are already being affected by climate change right now. We have a responsibility to Coloradans to stop the emissions that are causing climate change. And we have a responsibility to people around the world. According to the latest research on methane emissions measurement, the production of fracked gas in the US may have contributed 1/3 of all total global increased emissions from all sources in the past decade. So being the 7th largest producer in the US in Colorado, our responsibility for emissions is far larger. I calculated 1.6%, taking 5% of the US production, than our share of the world's population, which is only 0.07%. And that's just the emissions from production, not even from the burning of our product. We're not on track to meet our target emissions reductions here in Colorado. I understand you are working really conscientiously to make rules based on certain parameters, but I'm asking you to reconsider the parameters themselves. According to NASA, methane has double the impact on warming than we once thought. And now there's new information about best practices in monitoring and measuring. Your targets are based on outdated information, or at least on different information than is now available. So like a person with a serious illness who will, if they are able, get more than one expert opinion on the prognosis and the best course of treatment, I would urge you to do the same. In addition to your own experts, I urge you to hear testimony from the experts whose research is the basis of 350 Colorado's latest report, and hear testimony from the health professionals of New York who put together that 800-page compendium on the harms of fracking. To talk a little bit about the financial assurances, and thanks for extending the deadline on signing up to speak at the hearing on the 31st. And also I'm looking forward to seeing the new information on the website. But I would ask in general that you consider that as our world is moving off fossil fuel energy, more and more of the companies are going to go under. They'll leave improperly plugged wells. And I know there's many varying estimates of how much does it cost to plug a well, but the COGCC itself has estimated that it costs well over $80,000 per well to plug and clean up. So the bond per well should be at least that much. And there should be rules for when wells must be plugged instead of limping along, kept artificially going, producing next to nothing, but continuing to spew emissions just because the companies can't afford to completely stop production and plug them. Do I have another minute? I'm not sure how long my comments have gone.
You're over time, but you may be
Okay.
our last speaker, so why don't you take another minute?
Oh, well, I just wanted to talk about, I've been accepted to get a graduate certificate in environmental policy, and I've just completed my first paper, which was on the legislation about fracking on a federal level. And I read a study of the policy monopoly that's been created on the federal level that's prevented any new bills from even being heard. They bring up bills every year, the FRAC Act, but it's only been heard once. And what I learned from that study is that the people in charge of the hearings have so much power on what witnesses to call. And oftentimes, even within the committees, there are people that disagree with the ongoing narrative, but they don't have a strong voice to speak out against that narrative and call varied witnesses. And so I hope that you'll be showing us that you will be calling many varied witnesses and hearing testimony that doesn't always go with the narrative that the oil and gas companies put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leithwood, for that comment. And I can assure you that's how we do business at Commission. We've recently opened up the financial assurances informational docket, and we had close to 25 different entities file information with us to inform us with their perspective. And yes, the regulated community is certainly interested parties to this, and that makes sense, but we have any number of conservation environmental organizations, homeowners groups, 350 Colorado, and others. And so I think we've shown that we create an atmosphere to listen to all sides. And I think so far, I'm proud. I think we've done a good job of listening to all sides. I think that creates a better end product consistent with our legislative mandate under 181. So I too would like to see you again on March 31st at 6 p.m. and perhaps you can come testify with us that evening on financial assurances. And if you're planning on doing that, make sure you sign up by the deadline of 5 p.m. March 22nd.
Okay, thanks for answering my question.
Mm-hmm. Did we find Ms. Smith? I was looking and I don't think I saw her.
She's still not present, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And that is all for everyone that signed up for public comment.
Okay. Again, folks, just with regard to public comment, we like you to have signed up by noon the day before public comment. It helps us understand who we've got. So we'll continue that. For the financial assurances informational docket meetings, work sessions, that'll be on March 31st and April 1st with public comment that evening starting at 6. The sign up is Monday the 22nd, so it's a little different than normal. But we've got a whole bunch of folks that have signed up, and I know that there were folks that missed the initial deadline of March 15th, and so we've extended it a week to make sure that we hear from everybody. I'm going to keep rattling on, and maybe Ms. Smith will show up. I had a few comments to make under commissioner comments. With regard to the financial assurances informational docket, as I've mentioned a couple of times, March 31st from 9 to 1 and then April 1st from 9 to 1 will be the opportunity for each of the interested parties that filed information with us to present us with their information. It'll be time for Q&A with commissioners, dialogue, we're hopeful, back and forth between commissioners and the parties that have provided us information. We had received hundreds of pages of information, so that's great. I know all the commissioners have downloaded all that information, and we're feverishly working through it. Again, public comment will be on the 31st at 6 p.m. Would also note for the record that we've moved from the old method of doing rulemaking business, in which we had people email their information to us and then we would put it on a Google Drive, and we're using our new e-filing system, and that is available to the public. You can also sign up and create an account. As with anything new, we've had a couple of hiccups. Number one, we were sort of flooded with everybody trying to file at 5 o'clock on the 15th, and somehow or another the system froze. And so you will see that folks filed after the 15th, which is after the deadline, but they had told us that they were unable to get it into the system. And so we helped them, and I think we got the last person in today. So everybody's consistent in terms of trying to get it in by the deadline, and our Office of Information Technology gurus are working on that so that when we have our next filing, we won't run into that sort of hiccup. The other thing is that right now, to find those filings, you need to go to the e-filing system, and then you need to search for the filings using the docket number search. And I'm going to get some instructions on how to get to that on the website, hopefully by tomorrow, so that everybody can find the documents that were found. The docket number is 2102-00013. Again, 2102-00013. If you search by that docket number, all of the information will show up. The third sort of hiccup is that right now, the way that it is delineated, it's tough to figure out who filed which document until you actually open up the document, and then you'll find the party. We're working on that too, so bear with, and we're hoping to have a layer that shows, when you look at the list of documents, you'll see the actual interested parties as part of that. So, 350 Colorado, and then there would be COGA, and then et cetera. So working on that as well. Bear with, we received this e-filing system, and we've done our best to get it up and running, but this is kind of the first full-scale use in a rulemaking scenario. And I guess I'm proud that we came up with the idea of, before we did a rulemaking, let's do an informational docket. And so we'll sweep out all these hiccups and get it up and running without problems. I think that's it on financial assurances update. Really proud that we had 25 parties, and really good, important stuff there. The only other thing that I had, just as a reminder, we're meeting tomorrow. We're looking forward to this meeting that's been on the books for a while. We're meeting jointly with the Air Quality Control Division or Commission, and that meeting will start at 9. And I'm looking at our Commissioner Hackett, if he wanted to provide interested members of the public a quick update on how to get into that meeting. I know I went online, and I think I signed up, and I now have a Zoom link, and but we're looking forward to that. We'll have presentations from COGCC to AQCC and back and forth, and we've got a whole day's worth of good information that we'll hear from, and we also have a public comment sign up there. AQCC is running that public comment, and so I'll look forward to being a listener as opposed to a chair. Commissioner Hackett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead and paste in the chats the Air Quality Control Commission's website. That's their homepage. From that homepage, you'll be able to find the agenda for tomorrow's meeting. On the agenda will be a registration link, and you'll have to register in advance. It will be a Zoom meeting. I think there's also going to be a phone call option for people who aren't in front of a computer. So you'll have to register in advance there. Also on the Air Commission's homepage, you'll find a link to the meeting materials. So all of the presentations that will be discussed tomorrow can be accessed there, as well as the written public comments that have been received so far. Wanted to thank Director Murphy, Deputy Director Cuthbertson, and all of the staff at COGCC who put a lot of effort into preparing those presentations and helping get ready for this meeting tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty full day. We have like Chair Robbins had mentioned, the meeting will start at 9. It will start with an introduction from the Air Quality Control Commissioner, Curtis Reuter, who will introduce himself and then kick it off to the Air Commissioners to introduce themselves. And then he would hand it over to Chair Robbins to kick off the introductions for COGCC. And then after that, we would go into an hour-long public comment session. Right now, it looks like it's a pretty full house of public commenters. We have 3 elected officials who have signed up and 19 members of the public who have signed up. And then after that, we'll jump into a bunch of different presentations that you can see on the agenda and find in the meeting materials that are posted online. And happy to answer any other questions people have about that.
Thanks, Commissioner Hackett, for that. And thanks for giving folks an ability to figure out how to join that meeting. It should be a great day. Commissioners, reminder, be ready to introduce yourselves briefly to the AQCC folks. If you're not sure who you are, you can go online. Your bio is at the Commission website. I'm still not seeing Ms. Smith, so I think we'll be done with public comment. And I'm kind of looking around to see if any commissioners have any additional commissioner comments, which is sort of the last piece of today's short agenda. Commissioner Hackett.
Thank you, Chair Robbins. The only other quick comment I wanted to mention, some folks have heard this already, but this is part of the Air Pollution Control Division's efforts to implement House Bill 1261 and the greenhouse gas emission reduction measures there. They will be holding a oil and gas greenhouse gas emission reduction stakeholder meeting on March 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. And members of the public are encouraged to sign up to that and provide comments there. That will be leading into or feeding into a hearing, a rulemaking hearing that will be held this December. And the way the Air Commission's process works is there's a request for hearing that will happen on September 16th. And that is what initiates the formal rulemaking process. And then the actual hearing will be held on December 16th and 17th. So just wanted to share that information with folks. And that's all I had tonight.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Hackett. Other commissioners with comments? And while we're doing that, Hearings Officer Thomas, if you could respond to the question from Ms. Lockwood in the chat about how do the folks sign up for the financial assurances extended deadline for public comment? Mr. Thomas may not be able to unmute. Ms. Lockwood, we're going to have on the website tomorrow on the homepage, kind of right there at the beginning, probably a link for sign up. So should be pretty easy to figure that out. Okay, so it's not been opened yet, but it will be reopening shortly and it'll be on our website. All right. You're welcome. Other commissioners, I'm not seeing other commissioners with comments, which is good, fine. It's 5:40. I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye and with the thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thanks, everybody. We look forward to seeing those of you who want to join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. via the Zoom through AQCC. Have a good evening. Happy St. Patrick's Day.